Oh, because the meeting starts.
Let's call the meeting to order. Roll call.
Mayor Reese,
Here.
Councilmember Osk,
Here.
Nelson,
Here.
Gilbertson,
Here.
Gardner,
Here.
Hagerly, Davis,
Here.
Butterfield,
Here.
and Schultz.
Here.
9 present, 0 absent.
Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Any proposed additions or deletions to the agenda?
Mayor Reese,
Yes, Audrey.
I would like to add to schedule a special meeting for a non-annual evaluation of performance of the city of Willmar City Administrator under Minnesota Statute, Section 13D05, 3A. I don't care where it is, if it's at the last.
Do you have a date to propose, or?
That's what I think we would do when we get to that agenda item.
Okay. And that's under the,
And added as N?
that's what?
Added as N?
I got so many pages.
Make a motion to approve the amended agenda.
Second.
Got a motion and a second discussion. Roll call.
Councilmember Osk,
Aye.
Nelson,
Aye.
Gilbertson,
Aye.
Gardner,
Aye.
Hagerly,
Aye.
Davis,
Aye.
Butterfield,
Aye.
and Schultz.
Aye.
8 ayes, 0 noes.
That motion passes. Next is a proclamation from Rotary International World Polio Day. It reads, whereas Rotary is a global network of neighbors, friends, leaders, and problem solvers who unite and take action to create lasting change in communities across the globe. And whereas the Rotary motto, service above all, inspires members to provide humanitarian service, follow high ethical standards, and promote goodwill and peace in the world. And whereas Rotary in 1985 launched Polio Plus, and in 1988 helped establish the Global Polio Eradication Initiative, which today includes the World Health Organization's U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, UNICEF, and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and Gavi, the Vaccine Alliance, to immunize the children of the world against polio. And whereas polio cases have dropped 99.9% since 1988, and the world stands on the threshold of eradicating the disease, and whereas to date Rotary has contributed more than 2.2 billion and countless volunteer hours protecting nearly 3 billion children in 122 countries, and whereas Rotary is working to raise an additional $50 million per year, which would be leveraged for maximum impact by an additional $100 million annually from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And whereas these efforts are providing much needed operational support, medical staff, laboratory equipment, and educational materials for health workers and parents. And whereas, in addition, Rotary has played a major role in decisions by donor governments to contribute more than $10 billion to the effort. And whereas there are over 1.2 million Rotary members in 36,000 clubs throughout the world that sponsor service projects to address such critical issues as poverty, disease, hunger, illiteracy, and environment in their local communities and abroad. Therefore, I, Douglas Reese, Mayor of the City of Willmar, Minnesota, do hereby proclaim November 7th, 2025, World Polio Day in Willmar, Minnesota, and encourage all citizens to join me and Rotary International in the fight for a polio-free world. After all that, I think Rotary does so much in our community and all around. We've got some Rotary members. Kyle, are you? Tom is. We got anybody else here?
Yeah, Justin.
Well, thank you for being a part of this. All right. Consent items. I'll call on our city clerk, Renee Larson.
Mayor Reese, council members, tonight for your approval, I have the city council minutes of October 20th, 2025, the special council minutes of October 30th, 2025, the council work session minutes of October 13th, 25, the Board of Zoning Appeals minutes from October 14th, 2025 as a draft, the Planning Commission minutes of October 22nd, 2025 as a draft, the Willmar Municipal Utilities Commission minutes of October 13th, 2025, the accept and final project number 2508 seal code improvements, and the accounts payable report from 10/15 of 25 through 10/29 of 25.
Move to approve.
Second.
We got a motion and a second to approve. Any discussion? Seeing and hearing none, roll call.
Councilmember Nelson.
Aye.
Gilbertson.
Aye.
Gardner.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Butterfield.
Aye.
Schultes.
Aye.
And Osk.
Aye.
8 ayes, 0 noes.
The motion passes. We have no one for the open forum. The next is a public hearing on the sanitary sewer system and environmental specialist Sarah Seatsma.
Yes, good evening, Mayor and council members. So tonight we're holding the public hearing to amend ordinance chapter 16, article 3, which covers the sanitary sewer system. So I first approached you all with this need on September 15th. We formally introduced this on October 6th, and at that meeting we also set the public hearing for tonight. So again, just a brief review. The overall intent of these ordinance amendments is to prevent the clear water, what we commonly call inflow and infiltration, from reaching our sanitary sewer mains, our lift stations, and ultimately our wastewater treatment plant. That happens a lot through broken or deteriorated private sewer laterals. The city, on our side, we continue to assess the condition of our sanitary sewer mains and our manholes, and then complete repairs or replacement on that portion of the system also. So we're now adding these service lines as part of the comprehensive solution to that inflow and infiltration problem. The 6 events that will trigger an inspection under the proposed ordinance are at the point of sale or upon transfer of property, when a new or previous unconnected structure is connected to an existing private sewer lateral, as a condition of approval of any major building remodel project with a project estimated by the city to cost $50,000 or more, as a condition of approval of any building remodel project that involves any new plumbing system or parts of the existing plumbing system that will be altered, extended, or repaired, when a sewer overflow from a private sewer lateral has reached public property, or when a sewer overflow from a private sewer lateral presents a public health threat. So the property owners will be responsible for procuring a contractor to perform the televising of the lateral in its entirety from the building's foundation all the way to the sewer main. And then city staff will then review the footage and determine compliance. Any repairs or replacement would then be the responsibility of the building owners. So I'll let you do your part now.
All right. Thank you, Sarah. I'll open the public hearing for anybody that wants to speak, and if you do want to speak, you come up to the podium and give us your name and address. Anybody want to speak? Anybody wants to speak? Okay, I'll close the hearing and call for a motion.
So moved.
Got a motion to adopt the ordinance amending Chapter 15, Article 3, sanitary sewer system. Discussion? Tom?
Sarah, just one question on, you brought up about if any plumbing needs to be done, that it's gonna be mandated. Say somebody's sink, they're replacing the guts underneath their sink, is that gonna
Right.
trigger it?
No, so we've talked with, so we pulled some of this language from the state building code and we've talked to our building inspectors. And the intent is not if you're just replacing a stool or a vanity or a sink, if you're adding a dishwasher, none of that involves actually altering or extending the home's plumbing. So essentially, if it's behind the walls or under the floor, that would be what's going to be altered or extended. So if you're adding a bathroom in your basement because it wasn't finished before, or if you're doing a significant remodel of your kitchen, moving everything around, those things might trigger. If you're adding on a bedroom and a bathroom, situations like that would be what would trigger it for that plumbing event.
So just general maintenance of your current plumbing will
Not at all.
not trigger it?
Nope. And the only way that we will know that somebody is doing that plumbing is because there are permits required for certain plumbing construction activities. So then our building department would notify us. We would make that contact with the homeowner and the contractor to let them know that an inspection of the private sewer lateral also needs to be done. So our wastewater department would take on all of that communication, working with the homeowner, helping them figure out who the contractor is going to be, getting the inspection done, all of that.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Tom?
Question whether if a homeowner owns the insurance that covers that line and it that is then determined that they need to replace it, would that insurance cover that or no?
So my understanding of that service line warranties by HomeServe is yes. For if it was determined that your sewer is, if you figured out that it was backed up and you needed to have it replaced, if the city is the one who said it was not in compliance, because again, root intrusion, because it was deteriorated, because it's clay tile, whatever it might be, if your line needs to be repaired or replaced, I believe the coverage is up to $8,500 for sewer line replacements. So yes, that will be another thing. I know the company does mailings and gets this information out in the community, I believe twice a year, but that's also something we would work on sharing. It's obviously not something the city is selling, but it's a private company. I think our residents should know that it is a reputable company. I think something like 278 residents in Willmar already have those policies. They've paid out some claims already within the city also. So if we can help share that that's a resource for people under $10 a month, that I think that's definitely a good option for them to look into.
Thank you.
Justin?
Thank you, Mayor Reese. What about some of our larger businesses in town? Like, how is this policy going to affect, like, say, Jenny O or out on Midwest, Bethesda? I mean, these are businesses that are probably doing, projects, that are going to be over $50,000 on a pretty regular basis.
Right. So we've discussed that exact scenario, and the way that we anticipate and have tried to craft the language in the ordinance is that, so for instance, Midwest, if a repair or remodel was being done on one building that exceeded the $50,000 estimated cost, the private sewer lateral for that building would need to be inspected, not every private sewer lateral on the entire campus. Similar to Genio, they have different buildings. It would be the same thing. Whatever building is affected by that repair or remodel project would be the one we would work with. Once that private lateral has been inspected, then if nothing is found not in compliance, then they wouldn't have to do another inspection for 3 years. If it's brand-new construction, and so that line is brand new, regardless of when they were doing a remodel project or an addition, if the line is less than 10 years old, they wouldn't need to have it inspected. If they replace an entire line, one that's, old, deteriorated, whatever the reason was, again, they wouldn't need to have it inspected for 10 years, regardless of how many times they did additions or remodels or things like that.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? If not, roll call.
Councilmember Gilbertson.
Aye.
Gardner.
Aye.
Fagerly. Davis. Butterfield.
Aye.
Schultes.
Aye.
Ask.
Aye.
And Nelson.
Aye.
8 ayes, 0 noes.
The motion passes. Next is a motion to publish the ordinance by summary.
So moved.
Second.
We got a motion and a second. Discussion?
Mayor?
Yes, Tom?
Just real quick, maybe pertaining to the previous conversation, but my understanding is that if a home sells in Willmar on December 31st, it does not need to be inspected, but if it sells on January 1st, 2026, it would. Is that my understanding? Yes. So just for the public's information, so. That's it.
Yes, that is correct, and staff's prepared to start doing some of that communication with the realtors and the abstract companies and all of those as soon as probably next week, so that they have plenty of time and they can schedule that so that closing dates are not going to be affected.
Is that it, Tom?
That's it.
Okay, anybody else? Roll call.
Councilmember Gardner.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Butterfield.
Aye.
Schultes.
Aye.
Ask.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
And Gilbertson.
Aye.
8 ayes, 0 noes.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you so much.
That passes. Next is bike pedestrian trail plan. I call on Recreation Director Rob Baumgart.
Good evening here, and let me just get set up here quick. All right, Mayor, member of the council, tonight before you is to adopt the resolution accepting the bike and pedestrian trail plan. Back in May of 2024, the city council approved city staff in Bolton and Mink to work on developing a bike and ped and trail plan for the city of Willmar. The funding came from the 2024 CIP plan, and the cost of the plan was $47,500. We met with several community members and had quite a bit of engagement to look over this plan and with a lot of the stakeholders that we had, and it was a great idea to have these groups together and get their input regarding this plan. This plan will also be an appendix to the comprehensive plan that was approved earlier this year. So when we go through the slides a little bit. Okay, the purpose of having the bike plan is to provide the framework for the improvements of the current system that we currently have and to promote more active transportation and address the gaps in the systems and have priorities on what their improvements should be and that would have the greatest impact on our community. So then we got some goals and objectives of what we want to accomplish with this plan. Is one is to provide convenient bicycle and pedestrian facilities to our community and our destinations, similar to what we have done with the trailhead. That has been a great addition to our trail system. That thing is extremely busy, and it's still busy today when it's decent weather. People are still using it, so it's been a great addition. And then we need to build on the work that we have already done. We have great infrastructure already established, but we need to identify critical intersections for the pedestrians and bicyclists for the safety of them. Identify the gaps and the links in the existing trail and the sidewalk system and recommend the priorities of those improvements. And then part of the plan is to provide concepts and estimates and phasing of the project and potential funding sources. So a lot of this was for us to be able to get this, for us to get this developed so we can go out for grants and write grants for it. So when we look at our current system, again, we have really good infrastructure already in place, a great foundation to work with. We have roughly about 22 miles of paved trails, but we need to, again, work on what we can do to connect the trails and how we can improve the safety aspects of it. And this is where we worked really close with the Safe Streets for All group as well. So a lot of this talked together about making sure that we're on the same plan together. So when we look at the next map, you can see some of the gaps that we have. A lot of it's going to be on some intersections. When we talk with the Willmar Bikes group, their first one that they would really like to see us have improvements on is with the one by the golf course and 71. When you can cross over to the Midwest campus, they would really like to see a new trail get developed on the side of the lake. So then it can go basically around the golf course and then you connect around the lake and then you can get down to Robbins Island. And another connection that they would really like to see too is on County Road 5, going north and south, right by the Highway 12. That's a tricky intersection because of the railroad crossing, everything. And so then that County Road 5 goes all the way down into Swanson. You can get to it from there. So the whole big thing about with this type of a plan is we want to get a big loop around the city. Then we can start really working on the north and south, east and west, so we can get everyone to where they need to get to and provide active transportation that way. But when we talk about bike paths, we got to kind of know what some of those are like. So there are several different ones that MnDOT is recommending. The one that we usually probably see mostly because that's what's around here is the shared use path. So similar to what's at Robbins Island or on County Road 5, it's the dual path where it's a 10-foot path. You have people be able to go both ways and everything. And then we have another one that's what's going to get replaced here shortly is the one on Lakeland. It's the shared bike lane where it's painted on the road. I believe that there's going to be a new path that's going to be going from Highway 12 on Lakeland all the way up to Civic Center Drive. So that will be really nice. And that will be a shared path that will be off the road. And that's our goal, is to get, for safety reasons, is to get things off the road or have a vertical curb similar to like, that's around the golf course, just for the protection of bicyclists, walkers, and when cars are going by.
Lakeland Drive, that'd be on the east side?
Yes. Going through Trentwood and everything like that. So, okay. So how do we implement all this? So what the plan is it categorized our 39 obstacles is what I would say, and they categorize them from 5 to 1, 5 being the greatest need and the biggest community impact. So like, if this one's the costly one is doing First Street. So the price tag goes anything from $26 million down to $4,000. So those are the level ones are the ones that we can take care of ourselves that we have right now, if it's doing some painting over by the library or extending our paths. So that's how they are categorized as far as being 5 to 1, 5 being the highest one for improvements. Again, so we have 39 areas that the plan has dictated to where we can have some improvements at with the intersections and for safety reasons. So securing funding will be critical to implement this plan. So we're going to have to be able to collaborate with the county, or if we have street projects, how can we incorporate these trails into these projects that we have? And again, the other big part of it is that now when we want to go out and seek some funding for grants, that we have this plan in place that kind of puts us above everyone else, that we have a bike and ped plan. So that's a big goal of ours, is to be able to make sure that we can go out to get some of that grant funding from, either if it's connecting people to the outdoors grant, legacy grants. There's a lot of grants out there that we can go for and that type of stuff. But having a plan like this really helps us out from the beginning. So some thank yous that are part of this, because it was a little bit of a lengthy process. The Public Works Department, the Planning Department, the Park and Rec staff, Beth at the CVB was very helpful. Willmar Bikes, they're very pleased with what the plan is, because we just met with them last week, and they were very happy about this plan being able to be brought forth today. So Willmar Public Schools, Candy High, Renville and the SHIP group, Bolton and Mink, and of course the Willmar community for giving us their input on this plan. So with that, I'll answer any questions.
I got a question, and it's probably for either you or the chief. I came down 9th Street East the other day, and this electric bicycle passed me on the sidewalk on the east side of 9th Street.
Okay?
He was illegal, I hope. He was flying. He passed me.
Well, those e-bikes can, if they're, like the DNR has it, that I believe it, they need to be under 30 miles an hour or not to be on a DNR trail, so.
It's
those
20 miles an hour.
20?
Yeah.
That they can really zoom now, so, e-bikes are gonna be a challenging thing to mandate.
That's dangerous.
Yeah, they can go faster than 20, but the motor has a governor or whatever would be on an electric bike, that if you're pedaling, it'll go faster than 20, but if it's just bike power, it'll level off at 20 miles an hour.
I must have been driving less than 20 because he went fast by me.
The e-bikes are gonna change the game of how people be active.
And I don't have anything against them. I thought about buying one myself.
Some people consider that cheating. So,
Any other, Audrey?
Thank you. Thanks, Rob. I know that we do not have a complete streets ordinance, and I see it listed in here, but it's a priority of 3, where there are other things that are higher than that right now. But there are funding that's only available if you do have a complete streets ordinance. Am I not correct? Is that something that we should be working on?
I think it's something that we definitely need to explore to see what the grant will require us to have, but I think it's probably something that we should probably explore.
Yeah, because it's my understanding that it's simply a requirement to look at each street to see what you can do. Doesn't necessarily require you have to do, but that you evaluate and do what's best for all modes of transportation. Am I correct?
Yes,
Is that, yep,
Yep.
all right.
so,
Yes, that's something that I'd like to see us
yeah, we'll work on it.
work on. And I don't know who gets that one. Do you get that one?
Well, it will be a group effort.
Okay.
We'll work with.
All right, thank you.
Tom?
Thank you, Mayor Reese. Looking at these priorities, I was very surprised to see a lot of the push to bring all of our high-traffic areas and trails together in the same location. It seems to me like it would make more sense not to have high-speed traffic and bikes in the same place. And so I was surprised to see First Street, Willmar Avenue, Trott Avenue, Business 71 to all be high priorities, number 5s. And so I was curious how they came up with those selections. I think it would be wiser to create paths where there are bikers and walkers, and then there's other places where cars and things that are lethal are traveling. As our mayor pointed out earlier, it's not safe to have those bikes and the cars in the same place.
I believe that a lot of it was because if we start working on our Safe Streets for All, that this is going to incorporate that into it, so, and that's going to get everyone to get to where they need to be, especially because First Street's a main vein in town, so, that's how I feel like it's going to be. Now, we can set the priority of what we would like it to look at, but I think a lot of it was how it's all get connected with the Safe Streets for All program as well, because then we can incorporate them both together. And so I agree, it's high traffic, high dollar, so there's some lower hanging fruit ones that we can go after to have different type of connections, but I think these are the ones because of the main veins in town.
Yeah, I guess my priority would be to get bikes off of First Street and off of the main thoroughfares where they can have their own safe spot to travel, and it's just them, so.
Because a lot of them will have the turnabouts in them, so they were going to work with it, very similar to what's up in the Sartell area.
Anybody else? Otherwise, I'm looking for a motion to adopt the resolution accepting bike and pedestrian and trail plan.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Councilmember Fagerly.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Butterfield.
Aye.
Schultz.
Aye.
Osk.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
Gilbertson.
Aye.
And Gardner.
Aye.
8 ayes, 0 noes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Next is introduction to codify the City of Willmar zoning ordinance number 1060 and set a public hearing date. I'll call on Planning and Development Director Christopher Corbett.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. The first thing I'd like to say is the next 4 agendas, I know it made up majority of the packet, but these are more so just procedural, so we don't have to go through every single page. So I hope that adds some relief. So the first one is 11B. I'm looking for 2 motions today. What happens is, as you all know, we're working on the rewrite of our zoning code, and the very first step of this is to codify our ordinance. So our zoning ordinance lives in 1060. It's just one big document with multiple amendments to it. And so we worked with our legal counsel to make sure that we can codify it, making it more of an organized document that will live in Chapter 14 and be added to Muni Code. So codification is just the process of organizing and integrating ordinances into a structured and accessible format within a formal code, such as our city code. It ensures consistency, clarity, and ease of reference by placing related regulations in a unified location, updating, cross-references, and correcting minor errors. There are still some errors, and we're working through those. And so what I'm looking for today is just a motion to set a public hearing for December 15th at 6:30 p.m. here at the Health and Human Services Building. For reference, the codified zoning ordinance in this form is listed in your packet on starts at page 118 to 273.
I'll call for a motion to that, as Christopher explained.
So moved.
Second.
We got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Tom?
During this process, will we be reviewing any of these ordinances that are in place and seeing if we are following them or not following them and taking them out or adding them?
So, Councilperson Gilbertson, these are 2 separate processes. The first step of it is just to take our existing zoning code and organize it. So that's this motion. The one that you're speaking about, any involvement with city council, it will happen during the rewrite, and that's a 6 to 9 month process, and we'll talk about that next.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Councilmember Davis.
Aye.
Butterfield.
Aye.
Schultz.
Aye.
Osk.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
Gilbertson.
Aye.
Gardner.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
8 ayes, 0 noes.
That motion passes. I'll call for a motion to publish by summary.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion. Roll call.
Councilmember Butterfield.
Aye.
Schultes.
Aye.
Osk.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
Gilbertson.
Aye.
Gardner.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
And Davis.
Aye.
8 ayes, 0 noes.
That motion passes. Next, I'll call on Christopher once again in regards to an agreement with a consultant to rewrite the City of Willmar's zoning ordinance.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So on September 2nd at City Council, you all approved us to move forward to release an RFP for the rewrite of the zoning code. Happy to kind of say that we received 8 proposals. Most of the firms had already worked for zoning codes here in the state of Minnesota. We took a look at that internally and we narrowed it down to 4. So Bolton and Mink, TC2, SRF Consulting, and Cardo, and plus Studio Form were the 4 that we interviewed during the week of October 27th. Based on our interviews and conversations, we feel comfortable recommending to enter into agreement with TC2, which is a firm out of Minneapolis. Their bid came in at $87,000, and they were all competitive. All 8 proposals were pretty competitive, but we feel very comfortable with moving forward with TC2. So just for some more background, we released the RFP September 3rd. Our proposal was due October 10th. Like I said, we did do interviews during October 27th. In the council action request, you'll see that we did a proposed timeline. So to Councilmember Gilbertson's point earlier, City Council will have the opportunity to chime in for the zoning code rewrite, and we'll have an extensive public engagement part of this rewrite as well. So that will run from all the way until summer of 2026. One thing that I shared at the September 2nd meeting was just estimates from other municipalities that's done similar work. So you'll see that there. And so what we're requesting is a motion to enter an agreement and not to exceed $100,000. Even though the bid came in at $87,000, we're being prudent just to make sure that if there's anything that comes up in between, we have a contingency. You'll see that in the packet also, I listed the 4 or attached the 4 proposals. And Bolton and Mink came in at 112, and that's on page 308. You have SRF that came in at 93,000. That's at page 332. And Cardo came in at 99,500, and that can be found on 359.
We need a motion authorizing the City of Willmar to enter into an agreement with TC3.
Make that motion.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Discussion. Justin.
Yeah, I was just wondering if you could explain to us who's the we? You talked a lot about like, we did this, we did that. Is that you and some planning commission members? Is that just staff?
Great question. So it was me and Chris Frank, who is our city planner. We did score the proposals. Administration, Kyle Box and Leslie Valiant both received copies of all the proposals too. And then in the interviews, it was Chris Frank, myself, and Kyle Box.
Okay, so no members of the planning commission were involved in this then?
Only the RFP part, correct?
And has this gone to the planning commission yet?
No.
Okay.
They don't have to give us, we don't have to seek approval to enter agreements with planning commission, only city council.
Audrey.
Is this in this year's budget?
I do have some funding. Thanks for the question, Councilperson Nelson. There is a budget for that's left over for this year, and that's around 53,000. And so with my request of 90,000, I believe, for next year, that should be enough to pay for this rewrite.
Any other questions? Rick?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So did Mid-Minnesota put in a bid?
They did not, no.
Is the project too big for them, or?
We had no conversations with Minnesota about it. But it was publicly open, and we opened it for about 45 days.
Because they've done many of the small communities around, so it's surprising.
Any other questions? Roll call.
Councilmember Schultes,
Aye.
Osk,
Aye.
Nelson,
Aye.
Gilbertson,
Aye.
Gardner,
Aye.
Fagerly,
Aye.
Davis,
Aye.
and Butterfield.
Aye.
8 ayes, 0 noes.
That motion passes. Next, Christopher, you have a request to modify a setback.
Yes. Okay, so this is now the second time that the Board of Zoning Appeals has forwarded an agenda item to City Council for a decision. This one, we're looking at 3108 First Avenue Southwest. The parcel is highlighted in yellow on the screen. That's parcel number 958350280 in Ward 1. The homeowner is looking to build, the setback for an accessory structure is 5 feet, and they want to go in 3 feet, so leave a 2-foot room between the property line and the structure. I'm gonna go through just a few things. In the red box is the existing structure, the existing accessory structure, which is the garage. And then the yellow rectangle is where they want to build on their property. So attached to or affixed to the accessory use that they already have. And from the street view, you'll see that there is a short retaining wall between the two properties. You'll see that there's a trailer of some sort parked there. And so that the structure or the addition that this homeowner wants to build will be enough to cover the trailer that is being exposed right now. So typically what we do is look at the site selection. We'll look at the site plan, and you'll see that neighboring lots around, there are some builds or accessory structures that are closer to their property line than will like, then zoning would allow it to. We did take a look to see if any other variances were granted for neighboring properties, and we did not find any. And so this request isn't out of line completely. It fits into the context of the surrounding parcels too.
Christopher, could I get you to go back to that other picture? There.
Yes.
So the addition will be where the trailer is?
Yes. I tried to highlight that in.
Yeah, I didn't
Yellow here.
understand that.
And so you'll see that this shed here on the neighboring property is already impeding on that 5-foot setback. Their garage is fine, but I mean, this can be moved to at any point. So this came to Board of Zoning Appeals on October 14th. We did send out, it was a public hearing, and we did send out mailers to all their neighbors, about a 35-foot radius of the property. Heard no contestant for it. The problem is that we only have 2 members on the Board of Zoning Appeals, and I think that's something that we've talked about in the past too. And so the appeal member or the board member actually stated that he would approve it, but unfortunately we couldn't take approval from him because it's only 1 member, so.
Audrey?
Yeah, I did drive by there today too, and it would appear that the driveway is already not meeting the setback. This is gravel, and there's where you're pointing at there, there's a post in the ground. It appears that both properties have not met setback requirements, which is disappointing that we are in this position to allow something that shouldn't have been allowed to begin with in the first place. And I'm concerned about that. And while this is unique in that when you look at the corner properties, it's not really something that somebody has to look at right out their window, like we have in another area of town. But I just am concerned that these structures were built without approval to begin with. And now we are adding onto that structure.
Anybody else?
There was not a trailer there. There was an old vehicle that was sitting on the side. There's also two more buildings behind this garage. Two more little sheds, if I understand correctly. And so just curious about why we allow that many structures also.
Well, we are operating from a 1994 zoning code, and so when it comes to accessory structures, this homeowner will have to get a variance in order to make an addition to that accessory structure. Any sheds or any smaller sheds can be removed, and so we wouldn't count that towards our zoning.
So he plans to remove the two sheds behind his garage if he adds on to the garage?
I'm not able to speak about what the homeowner is possibly
We could
doing, but
require him to move the two sheds if he adds on to the garage?
that's something that I personally would not want my department to do. What I would like to see is perhaps us continuing monitoring and doing zoning code enforcement when there is a need. And so without all the facts, Councilperson Nelson, respectfully, I wouldn't advise my team to move forward.
Have a conversation with him. I think he's back there.
Hello?
We won't discuss it here, but you can discuss it with him.
Thank you.
Any further, Tom?
Yeah, I've had Mr. Cooley give me a call a few times on this. And he asked me the proper channels to go through on this. I told him he needed to go through the zoning and appeals board, asked him. And Nathan, if I'm correct, your neighbor on that side is totally fine with this?
Yeah, all of them, up top, and all that. And both of those sheds would have to be removed with this project being done.
You know, and I think it's gonna dress up the property a little bit more than what it is. He's gonna be able to get his vehicle camper, whatever is in there. You know, it's gonna be tucked away, it's not gonna be seen, it's all gonna be matching up. The house is a nice house, garage is a nice garage, it's just gonna add to it. I'll be in favor of this.
Anybody else? Audrey?
Yeah, just a clarification on the driveway. Obviously, that's been there for a while, but it is right up against the property line also. We do require some setback with the driveway too, do we not?
Yes, you're correct. What we're showing here, though, is not an affixed driveway to the property. It looks like the driveway ends right here in the standard footprint of the existing garage.
There's a whole gravel driveway with posts that's holding the stuff up that comes down in front of it, in my mind.
There's a mailbox right there too.
Right, but this is all driveway where he would drive back to the shed.
We can take a look at that offline, and we'll
Yeah,
continue
no.
to monitor the property for any infractions.
Robert, did you want to speak?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, members of the council. I did want to just point out, this is a type of action that doesn't typically come to the city council. This is one that usually is handled through the Board of Zoning Appeals. This is what's known as a quasi-judicial determination, where the council, instead of your normal role, where you're in your legislative capacity, trying to decide what the rules should be, what policy should be, you're actually applying the rules that exist currently in the zoning ordinance. And there are specific criteria the council needs to follow to grant a variance or to deny a variance. And I did want to just call to your attention that starting on page 401 of your agenda packet, there's a template findings of fact form. There's 7 findings the council needs to make in order to support granting a variance. I'm not going to walk through each one of them. There's been sufficient discussion on a lot of them about the reasonableness of the proposed use, the compatibility of the proposed use with the surrounding uses, things like that. There is one that I do think warrants further consideration by the council, and perhaps Planning Director Corbett can help too. In order to grant a variance, there needs to be a finding that there's something unique about the property that justifies the relief in the variance. So some sort of physical characteristics of the property that would justify it. And I was just looking at the overheads, and I don't know if there's a finding potentially that the property is narrower than its surrounding parcels, but there should be some consideration of that criteria. The rest, I think there's been discussion on. But.
Scott, well, I'll wait until this is over, but I want to have a discussion or maybe some questions in regards to our zoning appeals board.
That is certainly an issue, and I know I've been working with Planning Director Corbett. One of the items coming up on your agenda is to begin the process of essentially shifting the duties and responsibilities of the Board of Zoning Appeals into the Planning Commission, which is authorized by state statute, but we need a charter amendment in order to do that. So that's coming up for your consideration.
Okay, all right.
Preview.
Thank you.
It's a preview.
Anything else? I don't have that we have a motion. Do we have a motion?
No, we do
I
not.
didn't hear a motion.
All right, and I'll call for a motion. Who wants to make the motion?
I'll make the motion to grant the variance for location 3108 First Avenue Northwest, parcel 95-835-0280 for the 10-foot setback variance.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
And we got a second discussion.
So Christopher, is there enough room on the west side of the house so he can get into the backyard?
Is there enough room, I'm sorry, on the west side here?
Well, no,
You mean the east side?
Left side of the picture.
it'd be the left side. Wouldn't that be the west side of the house?
Yes.
Is there enough room so he can get into the backyard? if he
No,
needs?
not there. Over on the, where the C is on Cooley, just to the left of it, in the shadow.
In this area?
Yeah.
Is that correct? He can still access the property. Are you referring to as like,
Is there 10 feet or,
there is, there's more than enough,
so he can get into the backyard on that side if he has?
yes.
Any other questions? Discussion.
And the neighbor on the other side, his driveway looks like it, the concrete is right up to the property.
Correct.
Okay. And that's not allowed anymore?
At this point, we probably would need to investigate some more, but there seems to be some properties that are impeding into their setbacks as they are standard now.
Okay. I remember I added an extra parking pad to my garage way back in the 80s. It's almost on the property line. And that was done according to zoning. It's funny how things change. And Before in the county, you only could have one utility shed on your property. Now you can have two.
That's true.
Anybody else? Roll call.
Councilmember Osk,
Aye.
Nelson,
No?
Gilbertson,
Aye.
Gardner,
Aye.
Baggerly, Davis,
Aye.
Butterfield,
Aye.
and Schultz.
Aye.
7 ayes, 1 no.
That motion passes. Next is an amendment to the city charter, request to set a public hearing date. Christopher.
Okay, so this is the last one, I do believe. So I'm gonna go through each one. Today, we're looking for probably 6 motions. I'm gonna separate them into 3. And then when we come back for a public hearing, these will be separate actions and separate agenda items. So the first one I am going to start off is the CIP charter amendment, which is section 4.02 subdivision 4. So for a few years now, the city council has been, planning commission has approached city council to remove their review and their duty of reviewing the capital improvement plan. So every year, the capital improvement plan comes to planning commission, and for the last 2 budget seasons, planning commissioners haven't given you a vote. They have just basically provided a resolution stating that we reviewed it. So there has been some arguments that it was added into planning commission for transparency reasons. And though I think historically, the transparency came up that it probably was needed because the capital improvement plan was mostly managed under planning and development, and that is not the case anymore. So capital improvement and our budgeting is managed by administration and our finance department. And so we don't see that this is a role of planning commission anymore, and therefore would need an amendment to the city charter. We did change some language where we follow state statute to make sure that planning commissioners are taking a look at or reviewing the CIP with the context of our adopted comprehensive plan. And so that state statute is 462.356, which requires the planning commission to submit a report of findings as compliance of the proposed improvements with the comprehensive plan. So planning commissioners would not need to review how many snowplows we need or squad cars or any other things outside of the scope of the comprehensive plan. So with that being said, I'll answer any questions, but I am requesting a motion to introduce the ordinance and to set a public hearing for Monday, December 15th here at Health and Human Services, starting at 6:30.
So moved.
Okay, we got a motion. We got a second. Discussion.
So you don't want to count snowplows and squad cars anymore?
This is a request of our planning commissioners, of our volunteers, so.
Roll call. Oh, I'm sorry. Audrey?
I have been a proponent of someone reviewing it, and I understand that you don't want to do that. But I really do think that another set of eyes to look at the CIP is very important. I understand the context of land use, et cetera, those types of things. However, I am a proponent of someone else looking at that and tracking with the 5-year plan and some of those types of things. And so if you aren't going to do it, then I think in the budgeting process, we need someone else to do that. But I'm probably a no on changing it, so I'm sorry.
Don't be sorry. It is our volunteers for planning commissions that want to utilize their time more valuable and give real input to physical improvements of the city. We've laid out all their roles and responsibilities, and we're trying to streamline those processes. But that could be a conversation with the administration and our Department of Finance on process improvement.
Any other questions, discussion? Roll call.
Councilmember Nelson.
No?
Gilbertson.
Aye.
Gardner.
Aye.
Fagerly. Davis.
Aye.
Butterfield.
Aye.
Schultes.
Aye.
And Oss.
Aye.
7 ayes, 1 no.
Motion passes.
Okay.
Christopher? Go ahead.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the next one is section 4.02 subdivision 8. And this amendment would modify the section of the charter to require planning commission to review proposed purchases and sales within the context of a compliance with the comprehensive plan. This language is similar to Minnesota state statute, which requires the planning commission to submit a report of the findings and propose acquisitions and dispositions of the comprehensive plan. So again, this is a more procedural request. Right now, the city charter, the way that it works is city council, you all set a price for any purchase agreement that we enter with a potential buyer. And then without any negotiation, planning commissioners are required to review the purchase agreement. And so that adds another layer of, I guess it extends the public process, but it lives here. Any purchases that we do lives here with city council as you all are setting the price, negotiating and approving the sale, and not commissioners. They don't have a say in it. So we were requesting to change the language that is more aligned with state statute that requires planning commission to take a look at anything that is within our wheelhouse of our planning department. So purchasing and disposing of land as we see fit for the comprehensive plan or to support the comprehensive plan.
Audrey?
Can you give me an example of what you wouldn't want to do, or what I'm still struggling a little
Yeah,
bit.
so if you remember earlier this year, I do believe the sale of our property in Redwood Falls, am I saying that right? Redwood Falls came to Planning Commission and they had to review it. Another one would be if we sold any of our, let's say, we sold any of our property, Public Works Garage, for example, we sold it. It doesn't necessarily need to come back through Planning Commission because we're not proposing a development there that's attached to that purchase agreement, but it's just a transaction. And so we're moving away from those transactions and we're looking for like more of a holistic agreement. So a developer will come back with a site plan, they will come back with perhaps a rendering, look at any rezoning that would need to take place and not these one-off transactions.
Tom?
Is there an asset that the development board or commission would be interested in reviewing?
Councilmember Gilbertson, if your question is the planning commissioners what their appetite would be to review? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes,
Okay.
I'd like to look at it through the lens of a development versus planning.
So if I'm hearing your question correctly, it would be more so of if the city is annexing, right? If we are, that's in the comprehensive plan, and we can point to the comprehensive plan that the city is looking to enter an agreement to annex property. If we wanted to purchase property and partner with the developer for development, then that is something that will come through Planning Commission with the caveat that we're looking to rezone, we're looking for variances and things like that. So more of a development package, if you will, and not just the transaction itself. I'm gonna lean on Attorney Scott too, just in case if he can clarify anything for you.
Call on it.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. I just wanted to maybe back up a step here. The impetus for this charter amendment, as well as the previous one on the capital improvement plan, is really to clarify the scope of the planning commission review, not, as I understand it, to prevent these issues from being presented to the Planning Commission at all. State statute, the Municipal Planning Act, talks about these issues and talks about the role of the Planning Commission being the entity, the body that is kind of most directly responsible for paying attention to the comprehensive plan and advising the city council on its actions that have some relevance to the comprehensive plan. State statute does require that capital improvement budgets and proposed sales or acquisitions of publicly held property in the city be referred to the Planning Commission unless the city council itself makes a determination that there's just no relevance in this specific case or any specific case to the comprehensive plan, in which case there is a procedure for the council to dispense with that requirement. But it requires a 2/3 supermajority vote by the city council to do that. Absent that, everything has to go to the Planning Commission. What this charter amendment, I think, addresses is some confusion over the Planning Commission's scope. There have been previous transactions where a proposed sale of city property goes to the Planning Commission. There's been some confusion as the Planning Commission is supposed to scrutinize the terms and conditions that the city's negotiated in the purchase agreement and offer an opinion on, is the price sufficient, is, you know, the reserved interest the city has negotiated adequate. And really what statute contemplates is that the Planning Commission's review there is narrower. The Planning Commission's reviewing, does it make sense for the city to sell this property in this case, given how we've planned for this area to be used? And that's really the scope of it. And it's supposed to make a report on their findings, whether the transaction is consistent with the overall intent of the comprehensive plan. And that's for the council then to consider and make the final determinations on the proposed sale or acquisition. It's the same deal with the capital improvements from the previous amendment. It's does it make sense for the city to be prioritizing investments in the capital improvement plan in these areas, given the way we plan for the development of that area in the future? So I just wanted to kind of hopefully address I think the underlying dynamic here and why the Planning Commission itself, I think, was seeking these amendments. But I'm happy to answer any questions on the statutory framework here.
Thank you, Robert. Any questions, discussion? Otherwise, I need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to set the public hearing for December 15th at 6:31. All right, discussion. Roll call.
Councilmember Gilbertson.
Aye.
Gardner.
Aye.
Baggerly.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Butterfield.
Aye.
Schultes.
Aye.
Osk.
Aye.
And Nelson.
Aye.
8 ayes, 0 noes.
That motion passes. Thank you. Are you taking this next one too?
Yes, I am.
You are. Okay.
All right, so the final one for this evening is to introduce an ordinance. Basically, we kind of talked about it today, to introduce an ordinance to amend the charter and to give the responsibilities of the Board of Zoning Appeals to Planning Commission. And so we talked about there's a 7 members required by charter for the Board of Zoning Appeals. We only have 2, and we have had 2 or 1 for the last 2 years or so. Despite all the efforts that we have done to, recruit volunteers, and this is something that's you're going to see across all of our boards and commissions. There's just a decrease in volunteers. And so what we'll be looking for, so we can prevent that a variance comes back to City Council, rolling that over into Planning Commission. Basically, it is aligned with a lot of other municipalities and their Planning Commission, how they take a look at a complete site. And so just back pocket information, a developer can come to Planning Commission and have 2 meetings for the rezoning of their parcel, and then they have to come to City Council for a public hearing as well, so that's another 2 meetings. And in the event that they need a variance that's attached to it, we just saw this with Jersey Mike's, they have to go to Board of Zoning Appeals too. And now we have added a significant time to the process, and that is something that can be taken a look at the time that we're doing a rezoning or anything else that is aligned with the duties of Planning Commission. So with that being said, I'll be looking for the same motion to introduce the ordinance and set a public hearing for Monday, December 15th at 6:32 PM at the Health and Human Services Building.
So moved.
Second.
We got a motion and a second. Discussion? Audrey?
Thank you. I get that, what you're talking about, but with what we just dealt with tonight, my assumption would be that the Planning Commission would have said no because it didn't meet the requirements. And so you're now asking that person to come back to the same group as to ask for another chance to go through this? How would what we just dealt with tonight, how does that work when people who, technically you should have said no to the building here. You came and asked for a variance. You would ask the Planning Commission for the variance to begin with?
Correct. And so the applicant is their right to request a variance on any property that is out of the standard of our zoning code. The application would have been forwarded to Planning Commission, and Planning Commission would have voted on it. And then it would have either come to City Council in the event that it was denied and the applicant wanted to contest it. What this charter amendment aims to do is not to get rid of Board of Zoning Appeals, but to place it on pause until internally we can figure out a better recruitment strategy for our boards and commission. But the work continues by rolling the responsibility over to Planning Commission.
Any other questions? Roll call.
Councilmember Gilbertson.
No.
Gardner.
Aye.
Fagerly. Davis.
Aye.
Butterfield.
Aye.
Schultes.
Aye.
Osk.
No.
And Nelson.
No.
5 ayes, 3 noes.
Okay, thank you.
Motion carries. Thank you, Christopher. Next, call on our city engineer, Jared Volge, for a professional services agreement, number 1.
Evening, Mayor and Council. Closing your packets this evening is an amendment to the original agreement associated with the Lakeland Drive Path project. As you recall, that was an improvement that was identified for construction in 2025. City successfully pursued and obtained funding for the improvements along that corridor, consisting of both state and federal requirements. With the federal requirements, brings in the requirements for environmental review, cultural resources review, prevailing wages, and additional paperwork and procedures to ensure that those funds are gathered from the federal agency and all the processes are in place to acquire those dollars. In addition, during the preliminary design of that project, we did have a utility coordination meeting. The trail shared use path is planned on the east side of Lakeland Drive. And through review of that with Willmar Municipal Utilities, they're not interested in relocating any of their poles on the east side. As a result, a portion of the trail will be moved to the west into where the existing bituminous surface is already. So that requires some rework on that originally contemplated design as a result of that utility conflict. What is before you this evening is a resolution for a contract amendment to cover those items that I just discussed in the amount of $79,900. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that council might have.
For a motion. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to adopt the resolution authorizing amendment number 1 to the 2025 construction project design and construction professional services agreement in the amount of $79,900.
Got a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Got a second, discussion. Tom?
So when we first put this out for bid on this, did the utilities say anything to the city or on their concerns about it prior or anything?
No, so during the preliminary engineering report process last year, when this project was planned for 2025, the cost came back. It was a big number. Council inquired about pursuing grant funds for the construction of the trail. So it was concept in nature, generally reviewed to fit within that corridor because it is a larger corridor. When we got into the preliminary design piece of it, we picked up all the utilities. We put the lines on paper, met with the utility companies as we always do on every project, and we were informed that those poles would not be relocated as part of this project without a very significant cost. I believe it's a larger distribution / transmission line that is apparently not too old. So that came out of the utility coordination meeting.
Any other discussion on the motion? Carl?
So the path will be moved to the west. Does that mean that Lakeland Drive will be narrower than it is now?
Yeah, so since this will be a shared use path off of the roadway, the existing bike lane in that area will be eliminated. Yep. Yep.
Steve?
What does this do to the overall project cost, and where does the $79,900 come from?
Well, the overall project cost identified in the, I have that somewhere. It's approximately, I believe the overall project cost is approximately 1.5 million through the most recent preliminary engineering report planning process that was just completed a couple months ago. That was identified in there because the utility coordination meeting occurred prior to that. So it's covered in the overall.
Okay.
Yes. Yep.
Any other questions, discussion? Roll call. Oh, Tom did?
What year were the lines installed?
That I don't know off the top of my head, but when we had the preliminary utility coordination meeting with Mr. Zern, we were informed that those are a significant line that would relocation would come at a significant cost. So. But we can find that year out for you.
Any more discussion? Roll call.
Councilmember Gardner.
Aye.
Baggerly.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Butterfield.
Aye.
Schultes.
Aye.
Ost.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
And Gilbertson.
Aye.
8 ayes, 0 noes.
That motion passes. Next is business LRIP funding. Jared, tell us about it.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Council. The 2025 solicitation for the local road improvement program is currently out. This is the same funding source that we were able to capitalize or utilize for the First Street improvements or Business 71 improvements that were completed this construction season. I'm sure most of you had an opportunity to drive on the north end of that project. Those are the grant dollars through this very program that were utilized for that. Since Business 71 is a 4-lane highway, it carries a different classification than most of our streets in town. And we've identified this as a potential funding source for improvements to that next phase south of Robbins Island to the stoplight on the south end of the bridge. So if council is so inclined, there's a resolution in your packet which is required as part of the funding application process to authorize an application to be submitted for the 2025 Local Road Improvement Program funding for Business 71. And with that, Mayor, Council, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Do we have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We got a motion and a second. Discussion. Steve?
Does this, Mr. Vogie, does this come with matching grant or matching fund requirements with it, or how does the grant work?
Yeah, so the local road improvement project, I believe, is capped at 1.5 million per project. That project exceeds that cost, similar to the project that was just completed at this time, but there's no specific matching requirement associated with it.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other? Carl?
So, Mr. Vogel, you said this would go to the stoplight south of the bridge? So the bridge would get, the bridge is concrete, isn't it? It would be, how would that?
Yeah, it would not include the bridge, but it would
Okay.
include the bituminous from the stoplight to the
Okay,
bridge.
gotcha.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Roll call.
Councilmember Fagerly.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Butterfield.
Aye.
Schultes.
Aye.
Haas.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
Gilbertson.
Aye.
And Gardner.
Aye.
8 ayes, 0 noes.
Motion passes. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Council.
Next, the 2026 Project Design and Construction Professional Services Agreement. City Administrator Leslie Valiant.
Good evening, council. So tonight I'm presenting to you the project designs, construction for professional services for the 2026 projects that were approved at the public hearing on October 6th. That includes the 4th Street Utility Construction, Southwest, the Bridge Maintenance Project, and the Stormwater Capital Improvement Project for 23rd, 8th Avenue, Gorton, and High Avenue, along with crack and seal coating of various streets that you see in your packet. And I'll stand for any questions.
Or call for, or a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Aries?
Tom?
With the adoption of the bike, pedestrian, and trail plan, is there any extra consideration that should be made in the construction and design of these services for the city?
That hasn't had, we haven't had that discussion on, you're talking about 4th Street?
Could be, yeah.
We haven't sat down with Rob to discuss any further changes to any of this. Is there something the council would like to change?
Audrey?
I believe when we talked about it before, that it was acknowledged that they would look at that in the design of that. So I would hope that we would be doing that with all of our streets and
Okay.
comparing them to that.
We can take a look at that, and then we can bring back any changes that are necessary to the construction project engineering designs.
Justin?
Go ahead, Councilmember Nelson.
It would just be 4th Street, correct? Or would there be
What would council like?
Well, I'm just looking at, the other is stormwater and the bridge maintenance. I don't know that there's anything that can be done there, but we could certainly look at it. I guess I would say we need to incorporate that into our designs.
Justin?
Yes, did we receive any other bids other than from Bolton and Mink?
We have not gone out for RFPs on that. I mean, we'd have to go out for RFPs for specific projects. And we have not done that in the past. We've entered into an agreement with professional services with Bolton and Mink.
For the
For-
year, basically, and then
yeah.
that covers all of these projects.
Well, these are projects that the council approved and that they had preliminary designed. And then this is just the balance of completing those projects next year through construction.
Okay.
So each phase is actually given to the council as to cost-wise.
But we don't go out for bids on the individual projects after the annual award to Bolton and Mink?
No.
Okay.
They've done the preliminary design work already. So we would have to completely rethink how we're going to do this. We would have to come up with the projects we're gonna do, and then we would have to have an RFP for each specific project to go out for preliminary design through the public hearing, through the construction, and package it that way.
Thank you.
Audrey?
The preliminary design work was done like with 4th Street. We've delayed it, but that design was done.
And as you see,
And
that
we would need that in order to decide what streets we can do and what we can't do. So I get the work ahead of time.
And as you see, we have already, on the last page, well, second to the last page, under compensation, you see that 4th Street preliminary design and design, there are no charges there because they've already been paid.
Any other question? Tom?
4th Street was actually supposed to be done last year, but we pushed it off because
Due
of
to the project cost,
costs and everything, so.
yes.
So then now it's just construction building it.
The bidding,
this year.
the bidding process is still in the project management and the construction services and closing it out, the project.
Any other discussion? Roll call.
Councilmember Davis.
Aye.
Butterfield.
Aye.
Schultes.
Aye.
Osk.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
Gilbertson.
Aye.
Gardner.
Aye.
And Fagerly.
Aye.
8 ayes, 0 noes.
Thank you.
That passes. Thank you, Leslie. Next, I'll call our city engineer, Jared Vogie, back up in regards to crack, seal coat, stormwater.
Thanks, Mayor and Council. What you have before you this evening are 3 capital improvement plans. Staff has been collaborating on these for a number of months, along with Willmar Municipal Utilities. The first one is the street and utility CIP. Ultimately, that aligns the projects that are presented to you in preliminary engineering reports and provides a roadmap, if you will, of what streets are the priorities within the next 5 years. I should note that as part of the street and utility CIP, we did meet with Willmar Municipal Utilities. They identified some high priority water main areas that they would like replaced. And so we were able to identify those and incorporate those into this plan to make sure that they're addressed within the timelines that they felt their utilities could remain in place without failing. The second one in your packet this evening is the crack seal and seal coat CIP. Very similar map to those that you've seen in PERs previously, but it ultimately lays out the next 5 years associated with that. And then finally, the 5-year stormwater CIP, with the overall intent of that CIP to mitigate localized funding, provide stormwater quality improvements, and identify key maintenance areas that will help the overall storm sewer network within the community. In your packet, there's some costs estimated currently for each of the years. There have been some inflation factors applied to that as we get out to 2030. So that is there for your information. And lastly, there are maps associated with each of these capital improvement plans. And ultimately, what we're seeking this evening from council is a motion adopting the street and utility crack seal coat and stormwater capital improvement plan. Lastly, I will mention that these are similar to all the plans that we have within the community. These are guides. Ultimately, the authority of when these projects move forward or what they look like rests with you all. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Tom?
Jared, just looking at this, I believe it's the overlay for 2029 on Olena. I don't know if that's like 12th or 13th Street. Looks like we're gonna have a couple corner lots on there.
Okay.
So how is that gonna come in play where we're doing, be doing a corner lot on both sides on that one?
You're gonna test my memory of the corner lot assessment policy, but
Yes.
ultimately, they would be assessed for the short side plus 1/3 of the long.
Okay.
Yep.
I just,
So they would get both sides at the same time.
okay.
Yep.
Motion to approve.
We got a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Have a second discussion? Roll call.
Councilmember Schulze,
Aye.
Osk,
Aye.
Nelson,
Aye.
Gilbertson.
Aye.
Gardner,
Aye.
Hagerly,
Aye.
Davis,
Aye.
and Butterfield.
Aye.
8 ayes, 0 noes.
That motion passes. Thank you,
Thanks,
Chair.
council.
Next is Rail Corridor Study Cooperative Agreement. Call on Operations Director Kyle Box.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, council. Tonight before you is a rail corridor study cooperative agreement that the city of Willmar, Candioi County, and BNSF have been working on for quite some time, but we're finally at a point to get it in front of the respective bodies for your consideration and approval. So just a timeline of events here. So the city council meeting is tonight. This is before you. The county board will see this exact document tomorrow. So any action that the council does take tonight would be pending county board approval as well. So I just want to get that in front of you. What this corridor study cooperative agreement entails is an opportunity for the city, the county, and BNSF to evaluate opportunities for improved safety, reduce trespassing and transportation conflicts, and consolidate rail crossings through this corridor study. We have identified specific areas of interest within this document that you can see within, starting on page 3, it's section 4 under the scope. But again, to evaluate bicyclist, pedestrian, overpass, alternative access to the Willmar Yard, including possible reconstruction of the existing 71 First Street Bridge overpass for accommodations. We'll be looking at and evaluating conceptual alignment, alternatives of grade separation with grade potential, looking at what grade closures at 7th and 10th Street look like, and evaluating conceptual alignment of alternatives for grade separation at Lakeland Drive. And then also looking at grade separations or at those at-grade crossings throughout County Road 5 as well. In addition to that, we'll be looking for the county's perspective at all at-grade crossings will be evaluated throughout the entire county as well. So again, what this is just a planning document. It would be, if council does want to move forward with this document, an RFP would be released jointly through the city, the county, to come back and be evaluated by the three partners, the city, the county, and BNSF. And then we'd be recommending a consultant to start the planning process. So again, just kind of next steps, BNSF has agreed to the document that's in its packet. The county board will consider this action at its meeting tomorrow. If approved, we will be drafting a request for proposals for rail consultants to review and provide guidance and respond to the proposal. And then we'll bring that RFP back to the city council for approval. Our goal is to do that yet in 2025. Throughout this as well, there is the compensation piece of it. We're estimating the total project to be right around $300,000, and that would be equally split, 1/3, 1/3, and 1/3 by BNSF, the county, and the city. In the event that any proposal would come back above that $300,000, it would be the responsibility of the city and the county to make that difference up. But that would be, we'll know more information once we receive those proposals. I will pause there, Mr. Mayor, if there are any questions specifically about the cooperative agreement.
We have a motion, first of all.
So move. Second.
Okay, we got a motion, and we've got a second. Discussion. Audrey?
This has been in the plans for a while. It says CIP 2024. We have 100,000 in there for this study, correct?
Correct.
Tom?
Do we split it if it's less than 300,000 and get that between the two of us, or no?
It's a reimbursement, so it is up to, so the city will pay the invoices and then seek reimbursement from the county, from BNSF, or being reimbursed back from BNSF.
Okay.
So if it doesn't cost us that, we won't spend it.
But BNSF will be on the hook for 100 no matter what, then?
A third.
A third.
Up to 100,000.
But we get the overage, okay.
Correct.
Kyle, does this include the possibility of quiet zones extended?
Mr. Mayor, yes, that is part of the scope. Those will be looked at during, that is one of the requests through the RFP. Now, there is a different specific program that covers quiet zones, but we know it's not a hot, I wouldn't call it a hot topic, but it is. It's talked about quite a bit in the community, so we wanted to make sure that was part of the, that we touch on that through the corridor study. Again, this is just what the hopes that we will get from completing this agreement is a planning document that opens us up to apply for federal rail dollars for any capital projects that would come in the future. So anything that we would identify in this study, if it was quiet zone related, we would have a plan and documentation in place to go for capital grants.
Audrey?
Thank you, Mayor Reese. It's of interest to me, the bike and pedestrian overpass. It's shut down right now because it's not safe. It's my understanding that that was the railroad's responsibility to fix that. This is talking about looking at alternatives. Is that still evaluating their responsibility to do it? Or to just look at the best location for it to be?
Councilmember Nelson, I think twofold. I think there's an opportunity for us to evaluate the current location and see what can be done with the partners that we have, or if it best aligns to potentially move that pedestrian bridge maybe to an attachment or an expansion of the First Street Bridge. So that would be part of the study, though, looking at what the community and what the plan calls for best use of that amenity.
In that situation, Candiac County interested in this, or it becomes the city's responsibility with BNSF?
That would be the city's responsibility. The planning document is a goal to benefit the city and the county and BNSF, and then each respective entity would be able to go after any projects they would want to within their identified areas.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Roll call.
Councilmember Ost.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
Gilbertson.
Aye.
Gardner.
Aye.
Fagerly. Davis.
Aye.
Butterfield.
Aye.
And Schultz.
Aye.
8 ayes, 0 noes.
That motion passes. Thank you, Kyle.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, council.
Next is the agricultural land exemption of special assessments. I'll call on City Clerk Vernee Larson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members. Each year, properties that have been used for agricultural purposes have the opportunity, when they have assessments placed on their property, to ask for a temporary exemption. That is something they do on an annual basis. I have a motion tonight for the current 2 owners that have been, in the past, asked for exemptions. They are again asking for those assessment exemptions for the year of 2026 crop year, since their properties still meet the requirements for ag deferment.
Call for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Councilmember Nelson.
Aye.
Gilbertson.
Aye.
Gardner.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
Davis. Butterfield.
Aye.
Schultz.
Aye.
And Osk.
Aye.
8 ayes, 0 noes.
Motion passes. Next is an amendment to the assessment roll for 2025 street and other improvements. Again, City Clerk Vernee Larson.
The final assessment roll for 2025 was approved and confirmed through 2 resolutions and sent over to the county for assessment, adoption to the assessment roll. It had come to our attention that Candioi County Housing and Redevelopment Authority had a parcel on the assessment roll in the amount of $5,075. However, the city is contractually prohibited from imposing special assessments on county HRA-owned properties due to a contract that stems back to 1979, again in 1989, and the HRA is requesting that this be removed. There is a motion in your packet for that to be removed and for the new assessment roll to be brought over to the county by my office to be amended.
Or a motion to that effect.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Discussion. Roll call.
Councilmember Gilbertson.
Aye.
Gardner.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
Davis. Butterfield.
Aye.
Schultz.
Aye.
Osk.
Aye.
And Nelson.
Aye.
8 ayes, 0 noes.
That motion passes. Next, I'll call on the city clerk again for a reassessment of KCHRA property.
In being made aware of the properties from the HRA, it was found that there was a property that was overlooked last year in the 2024 assessment roll. So in order to meet our contractual agreement with them, we are requesting that the city reassess, or the council reassess a property for the amount of $0 so that it can be sent over to the county and removed from the assessment roll.
Call for a motion to that effect.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Discussion? Roll call.
Councilmember Gardner.
Aye.
Fagerly. Davis. Butterfield.
Aye.
Schultz.
Aye.
Osk.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
And Gilbertson.
Aye.
8 ayes, 0 noes.
That motion passes. Next is City Council Member Nelson requesting a review, or how do I put it? What do you want to say?
I am requesting that we schedule a special meeting to be determined for a non-annual evaluation of a performance of the City of Willmar City Administrator under Minnesota Statute, Section 13D.05, Subdivision 3A. And I might suggest that we look at doing it after our next regular meeting, or if there's a time that we want to do it before that. open to when we might want to do it.
Yeah, Justin.
I'm just wondering, maybe our city attorney can advise, is that something that could be done in closed session at the conclusion of the November 17th meeting?
Yes, thank you, Mayor, members of the council members. We fielded a couple inquiries in follow-up to the previous performance evaluation, which had already concluded. And in advising council members who had inquired, it seemed like if this needed to come back before the council, it would be most appropriate to do so in closed session in another performance evaluation. So that was the motion made. It can be closed, it should be closed unless the city administrator requests that it be conducted in open session.
So it wouldn't require a special meeting, it could be part of the November 17th agenda.
It could be part of the November 17th agenda.
Okay. That would be my request. I'll make that motion.
Second.
All right, we got a motion and a second discussion. Tom, did you have a question? Nope. Roll call.
Councilmember Gardner.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
Davis. Butterfield.
Aye.
Schultes.
Aye.
Ost.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
And Gilbertson.
Aye.
8 ayes, 0 noes.
Motion passes. Any announcements? If not, I'm open to a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
We're adjourned.
It took,
Well, I usually do.